Waterloo CSL TV.
Is that they tell me I'm a nigger, and then they're just with the game, I'm like, oh.
Alright guys, we're gonna get started here. So before I get too into it, my name is Tim Clark, aka Tang, aka VP Tang. I was a Grandmaster player in Season 3. Actually lost it on the last day. I thought they locked it, and it turns out they didn't, so that's why I'm not Grandmaster now. But you can be assured, next season I'll be taking it back. Before I get too into the lecture, I'd like to thank Steve for hosting this event, inviting me out to talk to you guys today. So let's give a little round of applause, show me appreciate it. Now, the topic of today's lecture will be aggressive Zerg play. Now, I don't really know why Steve invited me, of all people, to talk about aggressive Zerg play. Like, I'm pretty by the book Zerg player, ABC, make a lot of drones. No, I'm kidding. I'm a very, very hyper-aggressive Zerg player. Most of my games don't make it past about the 6-minute to 10-minute mark. I like to really grind down people's doors. And cheese. a little bit of cheese, but I'll make a couple of distinctions about responses versus cheese in a moment. So before I get too into it, I'd just like to ask, does anyone have any opening questions about aggressive Zerg play? Any questions about me? Any questions about the game? Anything at all?
Sure. Why do you choose aggressive Zerg play over macro play then? Simplest question.
There's quite a few answers. I suppose I played team games for a long time, and in team games it's really about cheesy play, right? So I opened 10 pool. That's how I learned how to play Zerg. That's how I got my Zergling macro or micro and all that.
Why 10 pool over 11 over pool then?
Sometimes I've experimented with 11 over pool too. I like 10. It gets your Zerglings out a little bit quicker. But yeah, for team game style play, you really need to be hyper aggressive. So when I was making the transition into 1v1 play, I really couldn't figure it out for a while. Like in fact, I didn't even play 1v1s for so long because the current trend was to go for that really macro-oriented style. But then I started watching some other players play and started to realize Zerg does have some capabilities to be aggressive, if you can read between the lines a little bit. Any other questions?
So how long have you been playing for?
I played StarCraft Brood War for a while, not professionally or anything like that, just for fun. Played Warcraft 3 for a long time and then moved into StarCraft 2 just since the beta. And been just grinding the game since then. A lot of hours put in, I'll tell you that right now. One last chance, any questions?
How many games have you played in StarCraft 2 overall? How many wins do you have?
How many wins?
Yeah.
Upwards of about 2,000, something like that. Most of them team games. Like I said, I played a lot of teams.
No, I mean 1v1.
1v1? Over all of my accounts, probably about maybe 600-700. Not that many. What's that?
You can check it. Well, here it's StarCraft 2 again, you can check it.
I'm not gonna. I have multiple accounts, so I can't really do that. So I just want to open it up with the discussion. This isn't just going to be a straight lecture. I'd like you guys to engage as much as possible. So I'm just going to open up with, why is Zerg a good race to be aggressive with?
Mobility.
And you guys can just raise your hand and throw out answers. Just do what you got to do. Mobility. I heard mobility. That's definitely one. Zerg units are very quick. Any other? Speak up. Speak up. Don't be shy.
You can switch between production and pure units.
Absolutely. Quick tech switches, very important.
Queens. Yes.
Can you be a little more specific? Queens, yes, they are a Zerg unit. What about them? Spawn larva, so you can produce units very quickly. Very true.
Fast unit production.
Fast unit production, yeah, you can just spit out 20 Zerglings at once off 2 hatcheries, things like that. Good. Okay, so I had a couple answers here. And my first one was the current metagame. So a lot of people right now play Zerg as very macro-oriented, so you see a lot of players are actually responding by playing macro themselves. Protoss, the current trend is they go for Forge Fast Expand. Even Terran players are opening with 1-Rax expands, just making a couple Zerglings, getting as much of an economic advantage in the early stages as possible. So by playing this very aggressive style of Zerg, you can actually capitalize on the current metagame. Also, even some of the pressure builds that players will open with, things like 2-Rax Marines, things like 2-Gate pressure, even Banelings and stuff like that. They're very slow units. They take a long time to get across the map. So if you're planning to be aggressive, you can abuse the immobility of these types of units and go for counterattacks yourself. Another reason Zerg is a great race to be aggressive with is it's a reactive race, as someone mentioned. You can tech switch very quickly. So let's say, for example, you open with your standard hatch first, and the player pressures you with some Marines or something like that. You end up making some Zerglings to hold the early pressure. Standard, you may get your speed and stuff like that, and they switch into Hellions. What a lot of players will do is they'll put down 1 spine crawler, 2 spine crawlers, maybe get a queen and block the ramp. What I'll do is get a roach horn and go, I already have speedlings, I'll go for roaches. Push out across the map with those roaches. Zerglings already have speed, they're going to catch up. And by the time I get to his base, I have not only this little roach push, which Hellions are pretty weak against, but I also have all these Zerglings. So I can break through the ramp with those roaches, flood in with the Zerglings, and do tons of damage, and still be okay, macro-wise. I still got that hatch up first, still got 2 queens, you know, still spinning the larva, producing drones back in my base, but just the opening is very aggressive and puts you in a good spot.
Not play any huge tournaments right now. He is just local, sticking to his studies right now and making that coaching side work, but hopefully we will see him at the last MLG because I will be there and I hope to see Tang there. I will ask him later. Anyways, later, after this game, I think that we are going to dual cast me and Tang and just get some tutorials going, get Tang's input on these crazy aggressive builds, what he could have done better, what he thinks about the timings, about everything, and meanwhile, the Playstyles player is actually going for a double gateway, gonna throw down a Nexus behind this, I think eventually, because of the positioning of these gateways, obviously. But for now, he's spending all his money actually chrono boosting these zealots. That is going to be quite a surprise by Tang, but he does see this. He did go for cool or gas first, so he's going to be able to actually produce enough things, or at least the spine crawlers, to help defend against this. He is producing a Bailey nest instead, and I wonder what this choice is. I will have to actually ask him about this later on because we see a whole bunch of zealots and produce Baileys. I mean, Baileys are fairly decent against zealots, but when there are a lot of them and when they are very cleaned up pretty, zealots are going to take actually a lot of Bailey hits before they die. Now there are a lot of links on the field, but that is not going to be enough to kill 5 zealots. They will have to get a great surround, but more are on the way, so that is actually going to thwart this back. The zealots are going to have to run home, and if they're not careful, they will get surrounded by this massive amount of lings, and I think the Bailey nest is actually going to just beat the bus behind us because you saw he actually canceled his natural expansion. Does the Playstyles player know about this? He does know about this. He did see that there was nothing there. Now these lings are going to kill off the remaining zealots. The complete lull off by strategy and 2 more cannons in the back. But this is a very, very, very vulnerable cannon right now, pylon, sorry, and it's going to go down so fast. Baileys, he really has to reinforce this before the Baileys are done, because these Baileys are just going to one-shot this cannon, this pylon, sorry, and there they go. They are just going to right-click on it, bust through here, and the lanes are free inside the main base. I don't know if he should go for the cannons. He should just run by and go for the probes right now. He is morphing 2 Baileys, 3 Baileys, a few more Baileys. Sorry, my mouse is just going crazy right now. He is morphing a couple of Baileys. This is not very subtle at the moment, though. A few probes going to make their way over here. These Baileys are going to die to the zealots if he's not careful. This Bailey could actually kill off 5 probes right now. The probes walking off of the middle line. A lot of probe kills right now. That is 9 probe kills killing off the zealot as well. That was actually pretty good by Tang, but it is still 2 bases against only 1, so that is 20 harvesters against only 14, and I don't know if that was enough damage. I mean, these Baileys could have done so much damage, but with all these lings running inside the main base and hiding behind this, just the time that the Baileys take the morph, it does give a strategy time to actually prepare because he knows that Baileys are going to morph and try to hit his mineral lines. Gives him time to actually split off his probes, and he managed that very well. Not perfectly, but very well. This forge actually took a lot of damage. I wonder how. I think it was just from the Bailey hits from the pylon right next to it. Meanwhile, Tang, what is he producing right now? He's producing 10 more lings, so he is not going to go for a macro game. He's just going to push this down the Protoss's throat, and look at this, it's still a pylon wall off, and if he's not careful, if he does not reinforce this, I mean, Tang is just going to be able to bust through this, but Tang is not in a good position right now. Sorry, my Skype is going crazy because I have a CSL game later on. These Baileys are not in front. The lings actually make their way inside the main base. This forge is so close to dying. Maybe he should actually shoot this off to prevent any more cannons. But the lings are inside the main base. Nice Bailey hit going down on the probes. How many probe kills is that? That is 17 15 probes killed. The probes actually turning around the plane. This is not the correct decision right now because they are all going to die. On hold, putting them on hold position, that is amazing. The Zealots actually taking down so many lanes, and that was a great move actually by strategy, putting them on hold position while the Zealots took care of the lanes. One lane is going to try and run it back to hide for his life. And he really minimized the amount of workers that he lost. If you look at the worker tab, it is still 25 harvesters against just 15 for Tang, and there are more lanes running across the map. And really, this is so intense. He is so relentless with this attack. Yeah, I really have to question it right now. Like, how much balls do you have? How those got in? How much balls do you actually have to keep shoving the links down to put opponent's throat? And this forge is actually so low on health that this might be his downfall. I think Tang is actually going to try and target this forge instead of the pylons this time, just because it has so little health. You see that the pylon has a 400 health total, and the forge actually has only just over 300. They are actually going to focus down all 3 pylons on forge, and more links streaming inside the main base. Once again, these probes are going to die. But how much damage can Tang do? The Protoss Hunter still has 30 harvesters against only 14 for Tang, and I don't know how much damage this is going to do. Nice hold position micro on those probes against the Zealot. Tang will have to target these probes one by one if he wants to kill them off. It is now 30 harvesters killed by Tang against 0 from his opponent. And really now he's starting his wall off once again, and there it is, the whole position micro once again, a huge battle right now. 4 sentries making their way inside the fray, and the sentries are barely gonna be enough to hold this one. 1 sentry going down, nice force field breach, preventing the surround on all these units, and this is still so intense. It is now 24.
Okay, good enough. So yeah, a little bit crazy, attacking them like 5 different times. Actually, if you notice, we're actually moving into the macro game at about a 13-minute mark, is when I finally get my expansion up and even double expand. So one of the biggest things I like to point out about Zerg play is that you can actually macro behind your attacks quite well. I ended up double expanding massing drones for quite a while because my opponent was just put on the back foot for so long. And that's one of the keys to aggressive Zerg play, is having follow-throughs, not being just a cheesy player, you know. And that's why I want to make an important distinction here between what I will call blind cheese versus an all-in response. So just blindly cheesing someone would be a predetermined strategy or build that requires no scouting to execute. You know, like things like a proxy 2-gate or proxy 2 racks, things like a 6-pool, where it doesn't rely anything on your opponent. It's just win or lose it, put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, and just try to do as much damage as possible. I kind of don't try to do that much. Like, I am kind of known as a cheesy Zerg, but usually my builds are a response to something I see. So an all-in response is a decision to commit to a large-scale attack after holding pressure or as a result of scouting information. So one example I give, and I actually did a Team Liquid post on this, is when a player goes for 2 racks proxy or just 2 racks aggression, you can actually stay on 1 base and go for a 1 base Baneling bust and just end the game outright. So that's the difference, you know, having some reason to go for your all-in style aggression, not necessarily just blindly doing it. Another example of this is like if you lose your whole mineral line to a bunch of Hellions, you're going to be kind of committed to attacking. You're not going to win the macro game after losing so much economy, so you're forced into aggression. But what I like to do is just plan it out ahead and take the initiative and just attack as much as humanly possible. Another reason that you would be another reason why Zerg would be a good race to be aggressive is you need to scout anyway. So by being aggressive, you're typically going to get a pretty good idea of your opponent's unit composition, of their building placement, all kinds of useful information you're going to get. And the way I like to put it is there's 2 types of information you get by being aggressive: direct information and indirect information. So for example, in ZBZ, when you're scouting and doing like a mass ling style, some sort of aggression, you can scout how many bases the player's on, how many gas geysers he's taking, what tech structures he's building, and respond accordingly. But also you get indirect information. If he's putting up spine crawlers at his expansion, he's probably not going to counterattack you. He's going to be on the defensive foot. He's going to play defensive and macro-oriented, so you don't have to worry about some sort of Ling-Baneling all-in counterattack or something like that. On the other hand, though, if he's not building any spine crawlers, he's just producing nothing but, say, Lings and Banelings or Roaches and Lings, you might be a little weary, like some alarm bells might be going off that he might go for counter-aggression of his own. So that's why being aggressive is a good way to play Zerg. Again, of course, you can just win games outright, but also you control the pace of the game. You know, you kind of dictate how the game's going to go. If you know what you're going to do and you know the attack that you're going to attack them with, there's only probably about 3 or 4 ways that they can hold off that attack, which means they're kind of constricted to certain laneways. If you know how they're going to respond, you can preemptively respond to what they're going to do later on in the game. Another reason is when you have this map control, you have the ability to macro and pull ahead while being aggressive. So if you're going for a Roachling attack on Terran and you make it into their base and you're killing a bunch of SCVs, you don't have to all in. You don't have to keep streaming in Lings. You can just safely macro up back at home, be content to move into the mid-game with the scouting information, with the economic advantage, and with complete map control. Also, you have the element of surprise. Not necessarily the element of surprise in that, oh, your opponent's not ready, he loses, but the element of surprise in that you throw your opponent off his game. You know, like one of I guess the keys to playing Protoss or Terran will be pressuring the Zerg player who's trying to macro. But if he's pressured back, he's kind of thrown on the back foot, he's going to be scared to move out and pressure you. He's going to be on the back foot. And again, like when he's thrown off his game, he's going to play worse, but you're in your element, you're in your zone. And I like to kind of quote the little one a bit. When he talks about StarCraft 2, he always says he likes those like frantic moments where neither side really knows what's going on. That's when he flourishes, and I'm very much the same way. Because like when you do this style over and over, you become experienced with it, and so on. Any questions so far? Steve?
Maybe you can show some builders where you execute these link games with 2 rats.
Absolutely, come on up here. You volunteered? You want to play?
I'm a learning Zerg. I definitely want to mentor and teach me this.
I've got a question.
Yep.
Against that 2-axe, what if they made sentries?
Well, you can't make sentries from barracks, but
Oh, well, I don't know, sorry. Sorry, excuse me, what if you made sentries in that situation?
Well, your first Baneling bus is going to get there before sentries
Yeah.
are there, so
Okay.
typically you'll break in then.
Uh-huh.
A better player would put up some sentries and stuff like that. If they had 2-3 sentries, I probably wouldn't be able to
cancel
continue.
it out?
Yeah, that's definitely the way that you need to play Protoss and
Yeah.
play defensive Protoss is chrono boost out that first sentry,
Yeah.
because you never know when a Zerg player is going to do something like this. Even if you scout the hatch
Yeah.
and you think he's going for an expansion, he can cancel it. So
Alright, thank you.
yeah, just be
Also,
safe.
one more point. He saw it. The guy went for a two gateway
Yep.
into Nexus. So that's all minerals. There's no gas. So the center would be very, very difficult.
Yeah, it comes very late.
oh shit.
Alright, Steve, jump on up.
Okay, tell me what to do. So what's the build order that I'm gonna execute here?
Let's do a Roachling timing attack.
Roach Link.
We'll do it against Terran, so just play it against the computer.
Okay. So just tell me what to do here.
Yep. Just open up the game, any map will do.
Alright, opening up bets. Is Steve gonna beat the very easy computer?
Let's put it on. Let's put it at least on hard.
Hard?
Let's see what
No
you got.
man, I'm not
Let's see
that
what you
good.
got.
Not that good.
Alright, let's do
Alright,
it.
here we go.
Zerg versus Terran.
So there's there.
So what I'm going to show in this game is a lot of times when players play Terran, they'll open with that really quick reactor Hellion style. And what most players will do, as I mentioned, is play really defensive against it. But what I like to do is get those roaches out really quickly, go for that Roachling timing attack, do as much damage as possible, macro up behind it. Because you always have a pretty good economy when you're doing this type of strategy. You get your expansion up really quickly, and you can always move into the mid game with an advantage as long as you do some damage. So Steve here showing that he has really poor APM, not spamming at all. Not even hotkeying his hatchery, this guy's really new. One thing I always recommend people do is be very active with your left hand. Even at the beginning of the game, You know, like I go through the hotkeys that you commonly use in game. Like for me, I hotkey 4 as my hatchery, so I'm always going between 4 and 1, 4 and 1, constantly using that. Another thing you can do in the early game is be really aware of what your drones are doing. Are they double mining on the closer patches? Are they tripling up on the further away patches? You want to have 2 mining per patch for a total of 16 drones at each base. And Steve, I want you to go for a scout pretty soon, probably a little earlier than you're used to, and actually put down your hatchery at about either 15 or 16, whatever you're comfortable with. So he's going to move out, and this scout, really you just want to see, is he proxying you? Is he making 2 racks? You know, what's the timing on his gas? Any of that basic information. Your second overlord going to go to your expansion as usual.
I see. This is why we say I'm busy.
You'll be thinking about getting your expansion up pretty soon.
Yeah. I have so many ideas. But now his status is I'm busy.
I know.
And it's a computer. He's going to open 2 racks, but I don't think medium series will be attacking anytime soon. Definitely want to be scouting for the gas. Grab the gas of your own. You want to go gas before pool.
Oh, really?
Yep, you want to get that Zergling speed, and you want to be able to produce roaches when the warren's done. Even 1 more drone, going right back up to 15.
This seems almost like an aggressive build.
It is an aggressive build, Steve. Thank you for noticing. And now we're going to drone up like crazy. So just for the sake of argument, let's assume that we scouted gas first. We're going to assume the player's going to open Hellions, and we'll see how Steve decides to respond. Yeah, fill up that gas. And just keep producing drones. You know, if he's going gas first, he's probably not going to be attacking you with Marines too early. May want to have an overlord there scouting for a bunker, maybe run around a drone. Just drone up to about 17. You got both your hatcheries hotkeyed and rallied, good. As soon as it's done, you want to be producing 2 queens. Not going to go for a spine crawler, because we play man Zerg. We don't get defensive units.
How many legs?
Just get maybe 2 to 4 lings, like the bare minimum. If you're dying to early pressure a lot, you may opt to get it.
Keep gassing?
Keep making drones, keep guys in gas. Don't start speed quite yet.
My bad.
It's okay. And just keep droning all the way up to 28. 28 is going to be your time to get your roach horn.
No speed?
No speed just yet. We don't need it quite yet. So these lings can move out, take the Zalnaga tower, hold off any kind of single marine or SCV pressure. Just keep on droning all the way up to 28. Okay, at 28 you want to put down your roach horn. Be sure to keep up with the spits. You'll need a lot of larvae with this build.
No spits.
Replace that drone, get 1 more drone. And now you can start your speed. And then produce 2 overlords. Seems a little weird to get 2 overlords in a row this early in the game, but roaches just take up so much supply that you'll end up needing it.
No!
He likes to time them perfectly.
Trust. I got this, Jay.
So you have 2 overlords on the way?
Why don't you just play against Grant?
I'll beat him.
And then Grant can like open up.
Please, son, really easy.
You're supposed to get it. You have
Now you're just going to wait for the overlords to finish in the roach horn and then start producing as many roaches as you can. Use up all that gas, it should put you right up to 44. Keep going all the way up to 44. You can see your timings are slightly off, Steve.
It's my first time doing it, teacher.
All the way up to 44. And now produce 2 more overlords. Those are going to be for producing lings. Now as soon as all those roaches are out of the larva, you want to start them moving out right away. Start talking shit now, now's the time to talk shit. Yeah. 2 overlords already on the way.
Oh, I'm pretty sure he's actually on hard. Just like,
Oh, is he actually on hard? Oh shit. Gotta try this.
Okay, so hotkey those roaches as you're moving out, and hotkey your hatcheries actually onto the roaches.
Onto the roaches?
Onto the roaches, preferably one of the roaches in the back. And just keep spamming those lings. How's your ling speed coming?
Minimap, Steve, minimap.
Oh, watch the minimap, watch the minimap.
Steve.
Oh my god! You gotta pull back, you gotta wait for your lings to engage. You don't want to engage roach.
I don't want to get you on something. That's bad.
Pull back to your base.
I can do this, son.
Get this around, get this around.
That's really
what's that roach doing?
Yo!
Get around.
We lost all the roaches.
Well, let's just hang out for a bit, take Zalnaga control, and and we'll reproduce a couple roaches as soon as we can. Once we get about 6, we'll continue the attack.
Okay, son. Let me teach you.
Yeah, that's 30.
That was some pretty sick money, Steve.
Yeah.
So good. CSL level, you know.
That should be enough roaches. We'll wait for them to come out. We need to produce some overlords so that we can get some lings to back this up. Make sure your rally points are set onto the roaches. Even your lings can be following the roaches because when you move up the ramp, you want to lead with the roaches. Lings are very fragile. Roaches take hella damage.
Hella damage?
Hella damage. I'm coining it. I'm bringing it back. Keep them moving. Keep them moving. So what do we do to Steve if he loses this game?
We'll kick him off the team.
Pretty hard. Okay, as soon as those roaches get there, you gotta start moving.
Mini-map.
Yeah, start moving up with those roaches. Get the lings all following behind the one in the back. Good. Roaches hockey. All those roaches hockey. Good. Right up the ramp with the roaches. If you A-move, the lings will surround on their own. You don't have to do a lot of micro with the lings. Let the lings do their thing.
0.
See, the lings will go do their own thing. Get right up there with the roaches. Right up close. You want to snipe those hellions. Keep moving closer. Keep moving closer. Lings will follow the roaches.
Oh, that's kind of scary. I didn't know that.
There we go. There we go. Give him the premature GG.
25 sucks.
And GG.
I won.
So that's the aggressive roachling push. Usually executed a bit better, but not bad, not bad. Good job, Steve. Let's give Steve a round of applause. CSL coordinator. Okay, who would like to learn yet another build? Who's up? Let's do it.
First of all, I want to ask, is that only for ZVT or?
You can do it against Protoss. Against Protoss, you probably want to get a couple more drones at your expansion. You want to execute the attack when they're getting their Nexus up. You don't want to come too early. So you probably get maybe drone up to about 32.
Will that build be set against Power?
Sorry?
Will that build be set against Power?
It'd be close. I don't think you get the roaches out in time. You probably need some lines and links to defend.
That build also very well. Is it still viable build if the force passive
Guys, can we keep it down a bit? You had a question, sorry?
Is it still a viable build if the opponent goes forge passive?
This build?
Yeah.
I don't usually do Roach Ling against the Forge Fast Expand. I'm more of a fan of the 14-14 Ling Baneling style. You can deny their scouting with the Speedlings. Banelings can just really catch them off guard if they're not prepared. Like I've said, like people really cut corners when they play against Zerg nowadays, especially as Protoss. They usually just make that one cannon and then wall it in. And they have no scouting information for quite a while. They're not going to have hallucinated phoenixes. They're not going to be able to get any scouting info. So if they don't know that you're on one base, you go for that Baneling bust and just crush them. So we'll play against Terran.
Keyboard? Okay, now down to sit on my foot.
Dominic,
What?
he said to use.
I don't know. I'm not going to redo his hockey room.
You just help me.
Let's do the game then.
I'll do both.
What's the queen hotkey to right now? Is there any extra hotkeys on the queen?
No.
No?
You just said it.
Oh, should I set it?
Sorry, what?
Shit, never mind, it's fine. Yeah. I'll manage it. It's going to hurt to
So what level do you play Zerg at?
Platinum.
Platinum! Alright. This should work against Platinum level Terran. So this game is just going to be a pretty standard one-base Zergling Baneling style. Some examples of the times I would use this build would be against a Forge Fast Expand Protoss, just to try to end the game, similar to the game I showed earlier. Against some sort of proxy Terran player that's going for 2 racks pressure, you can open with one base Baneling, either to take your expansion or to commit to an all-in.
Oh, sorry, I got to change the scroll speed.
You might want to pause the game.
Yeah, that's okay.
Baller. Confident. Yo, we're just hard, man.
Now let's meet you.
Overlord on 9.
Okay.
That's okay. Yeah, one of the biggest things with the early drone micros, you want to get 2 mining on the closer patches. Not necessarily with your first 6, but once you get full saturation, you want to have 2 per patch. Don't worry. So it is 14 gas, 14 pool. Very safe opening. Even these drones that are coming out, you can be rallying them to the patches that aren't being mined yet. Good.
14, 14?
Yep. You
Patch
want to be
first
very
or gas first?
gas first. You want to be very careful with your overlords against Terran. You don't want to send them out across the map like that first overlord, for example. You maybe want to hide it in the middle. And of course, the second overlord can go to your expansion to defend.
What's happening?
Better early than late. Better early than late. Very common mistake players make is they keep droning after they get this pool. You only want to go up to about 15. So go up to 15. About 2 drones, sorry.
I was like, oh.
But a lot of players will keep droning to like 16 or 17 and they'll get supply blocked and they won't be able to hold off early pressure because they can't make Zerglings. So you want to just get that
15
just get that overlord on 15 and safely wait for 4 Zerglings before making anything else. So this is what I like to call the chill time with this build. Not too much to do. So typically you'd be scouting by this point with a drone. You'd be looking, you know, how many gas does my opponent have, things like that. By this point he would have scouted a 2-rack, so that's what we're going to pretend our opponent is doing. And we're just going to play the waiting game for a bit. Keep guys in gas after the speed's done. Priority is going to be using your minerals on the queen and the Zergling. Speed will be last.
Oh, it's not Q. It's not E.
There we go. There we
No
go. Start
gas?
the speed
No
like
gas, no.
No, we keep guys in gas.
No, do we get first?
Yeah, get speed.
okay.
Yeah, good.
Drone or lings?
Keep producing lings. Those first 4 lings can be moving out right away. You want to scout the front of the Terran's base, and you also want to take the Zelnaga towers. Maybe even
Link, drone. Drone or link?
keep droning.
Drone it now?
We don't make drones when we play Tang styles, or we don't make any drones.
Oh, you just only make drones.
We just attack people.
Cultivate the drone.
You just
Just
only make a
cultivate
drone.
drone.
Like, oh, this is a drone.
You need it to replace the Baneling nest. Yeah, now's a good time to get the Baneling nest. When you're producing the Baneling nest on about 22, you also want to get an Overlord after it. Taking the Zelnaga towers, scouting with those lings. Don't want to move them all up, just maybe 1 or 2.
Should put the bailing nest at the back of your base. So
Yeah, that's a good idea. You always want to hide your tank as much as possible, so ideally you want to build that Baneling nest a bit further back.
and give not your queen closest to the ramp so we can pick off the SCDs.
So forgot the Overlord for a bit, gonna get a bit supply block, not gonna hurt us too much, just still gonna be producing those lings as quickly as possible.
What do I rally them to here? or-
Yep, just rallying right up to the front. And what's he got up there? Oh, no wall!
This is computer.
Sometimes you get lucky. So yeah, we want to morph in as many banelings as possible. You should have a couple more on the way. Speed just now finishing, so your reinforcements are going to get there very quickly. Keeping up with the spits nicely. Using up all those larvae, good. Never want to sit with more than 2 larvae as Zerg. If you have more than that, you don't produce additional larvae. And ideally, you want to hotkey your banelings in 2 and your Zerglings in control group 1. Even the eggs that are morphing in that are going to be Zerglings, you want to be hotkeying them right away.
Do the banelings go in 1, 2 or no?
I would have the banelings on 2, so you lead with the banelings to break the wall, or the lack of wall against the computer. But definitely want to be moving in, now's the time. About 6:15 we should be busted. So again, lead with the banelings, you want to make sure the banelings get through the wall. Be careful not to detonate them on marauders, you want to be going for SCVs and... It's okay, get a good surround, get a good surround. Try to get the banelings to the
firing! Wow! AI is so good.
Okay, keep up with that macro.
Exactly.
Good, good. Biggest thing is keeping up with that macro. Still producing lings. Good, good.
Oh, geez.
Do I need more banelings after that or no?
You just keep it going, yeah.
Doing-
The only time you would stop the aggression is if they had like a siege tank at the top of the ramp, or if they had 2 bunkers, you might pull back.
That's really good. That's really good.
Nicely done. Good job. 14-14 banelings left. Well done. Just give me a quick minute here. Oh, minimize.
All time. Just all time. How do you play with the schools so slow? The match school?
I really need a light bulb.
Right. Right. But,
Hotkey all the applications.
Oh, that's good. I can't do that.
Okay.
Alright, hello.
Oh man.
Okay, so just the build we just saw, I mentioned that the 1414 Baneling bust is pretty good against the Forge Fast Expand. So I have a game here that I played against In Control that I can show how the play works. Don't call him any cholesterol, he is a good player.
He's pretty good at losing it.
In Control is a good player, let's not cut him up.
He's also very
He's a
cheap.
pro.
He kind of rushes you, though.
let's do it.
He does.
I'm just
He
gonna-
does very good hand rush.
That's right. I know. Confidence is good at camera. I should learn from him. You have that 4 minute game.
Most of my games are about that long. Again, it isn't blind cheese. I scout something and respond accordingly. It's not blind.
Looks like it's times 2 as well.
It is time to do.
It'll have to do, that's fine. So it's 14 gas, 14 pool, standard. He's scouting with his probe. One of the keys to playing this style is you have to really deny his scouting. So, as soon as I get those Zerglings out, I'm going to be looking all around the map for that proxy probe because they always try to hide a pylon somewhere. So pretty much right now it's just waiting. You notice I'm droning up to 15, going to get an Overlord out, just going to chill for a bit. He is keeping his probe there conveniently for my Zerglings to take out a bit later. And right now, it probably looks like I'm going for a 14-14 expand. That's probably what he's expecting. No reason for him to suspect otherwise yet. And it's just the waiting game right now. Overlord's just now finishing. Notice I am keeping guys in gas. My gas is going up past the 200 mark. And he's going for the typical 4 fast expand.
That's a foul.
Nice.
He'll wall it off.
I like how you showed it off to him too.
Yeah. So this is the point in the game where I've already decided I'm going to go for the Baneling bus. I scouted the Forge Fast Expand, so I know what I'm going to do. He's actually putting up a pylon there, and to make it look like I'm going for an expand, you'll notice I'm attacking that pylon with my drone. So he looks at his pylon when it's about to die, he sees the drone, he immediately thinks, oh, he's going for an expansion. Really, I'm just going to bring it back to my base and build a Baneling nest. So a little bit of metagame. A little bit of metagame there. He is filling in that little wall.
He's a pro gamer, right?
There's still a whole.
And just-
Imagine there's still a whole after. Oh god.
And if you look at this wall, very, very vulnerable, and this is the situation you'll see a lot. In these wide open spaces, they can't quite wall it in with those big buildings, like the gateway and the cyber core, so they're forced to wall it in with the pylons, and pylons die with just 5 banelings, so really not a big investment to go for this style of attack. Still not getting any expansion, still just producing lings and baneling nests, just now finishing. Speed almost done, just gonna poke in here, get a little bit of scouting info and pull back. Just want to see his building placement again, where is he vulnerable? Where can I use the banelings to bust in and hopefully depower the cannon and win the game?
SimCity is really bad.
Yeah, not the best build order here.
His pylon is exposed and behind it is the cannon and that's gonna die.
So there's the banelings morphing in. Just waiting for them to finish. Probably gonna wait for those last 2. No, just gonna go for it. Gonna go right for that cannon. Bust it. Now what?
Something
Right? Very quick games, very exploitative strategy, and a lot of fun. Yep.
So this is DVP, and a lot of time the scouting prop has come out as like a very crucial part.
Yep.
I noticed how he kept his scouting prop alive.
Yep.
And did you have any reaction when you cannot find the scouting prop?
Yeah.
Because there's like normally a timing when you pop into the Zerg natural at the 5-minute mark to find if there's a hatchery.
Yeah.
And clearly you did not have that. Like, if somehow the scouting prop is stay alive, will you still execute the numbers?
Yes. Like I've mentioned, one of the keys is denying his scouting. So when I get those first 4 Zerglings, I'm not just running to his base typically. I'm scouting around my natural, I'm scouting around my 3rd base location, anywhere he could possibly hide a probe. I'm looking with those quick early Zerglings because if he scouts my expansion at the 4-minute mark and sees there's no expo, he's going to know I'm going for this. He's going to produce more cannons. So the key is just to scout all around the map, find his hidden probe.
So the reason for the Baneling Glass was the Forge Fast Expand, right?
It's against the Forge Fast Expand, yes. Biggest reason is if they're going for a Forge, they're not going to be going for gas anytime soon. They're not going to have sentries up in time. Usually they don't even produce zealots. Some players get 1 or 2, but most don't get any. So it's just a really good time to go for banelings and just bust right in. Any other questions about the bust? Okay. I'm just gonna do one last game
I
here.
have a question.
Yep.
So if you get scouted, would you just like cancel your banelings and then drone up or no?
It depends on when they scout it. If they scout it at like the 4-minute mark, very early, I will likely just cancel my baneling nest. They'll start defending and putting up extra cannons and additional defense. I'll just cancel the baneling nest, put up my hatchery slightly late, and be moving into the mid game okay. Most times though, if they scout it at like the 5-minute mark, once the baneling nest is finished, you're pretty much committed to the attack.
So it's a conflict in a way, right?
Sorry?
It's a conflict in a way that depends on how you can kill the scouting probe or not.
It
Because like the startup timing of scouting for the hatch is 5-minute mark, according to White Rat. And basically at the 5-minute mark, your battling nest is gonna be around 90% complete. And you still cannot find the scouting probe.
You have a good minute and a half to find it. You should be able to find it with 4 Zerglings. Zerglings are pretty quick.
I mean, Zergling without speed cannot catch up with probe like anytime soon, even though if you chase it. Like, if it keep going on a straight line, you won't be able to kill it.
Right.
Like, in 1 minute, basically. So, will you cancel the battling nest if you cannot kill the scouting probe?
Yeah, usually I will kill it though, like even though it isn't faster, like I'm not just producing those 4 lings, I have a couple lings extra, so say I'm following his probe and he's running up the ramp, I can kind of wall in a little bit, not let him get up the ramp and get a good surround on his lings. At that point, when he sees the extra lings, maybe he produces some extra cannons and defends, maybe not. It's not as good a situation. Most times you will be able to kill it though. Yeah. So the build Monk did was the Roach Ling timing attack, so I'm just going to show a quick example of that build as well.
So very, very experienced.
I'm just going to fast forward into the latter stages. I actually went for gas pool, not the hatch first, for this Roach Ling attack. Pretty much the same thing. Everything's going to go down in much the same way. I'm just going to fast forward a bit here.
So, but what's the exact load of it again?
I just wrote it down for her.
No, that was your one, though.
I have both.
Yeah, like I'll have it up on a Team Liquid post. I'll make sure there's a couple variations and all the build
send out
numbers.
all the emails. So if you guys don't get them, please contact me.
It's like 5.
Great. Like I give a weekly email about like what's going on each week in Waterloo StarCraft, and usually it's a lot. At least 2 to 3. At least 2 to 3 events.
Okay.
So if you guys want emails on that,
Quick question.
So, yeah.
What are the benefits of going full first tower?
I used to do it a lot because I wasn't that great at holding the hatch first. I hated dealing with the 2 racks pressure. I would always go for the baneling style, like I mentioned a bit earlier. So I liked having that versatility, that ability to produce the speedlings and go for a counterattack. If you go for hatch first, you're at least committed to like the 6-minute mark of being very passive. So this is a situation you'll find yourself in as a Zerg player quite often. Terran player going for Reactor Hellions to put on a little bit of pressure with Hellions, take map control. Meanwhile, still getting an expansion up. As a Zerg player, I'm getting my expansion up, but I'm also producing a Roach Warren. So he's going for a 1-1-1 style. I'm just going to scout in with my lings a little bit here. Notice I've cut probes. I just produced a couple overlords so that as soon as my Roach Warren finishes, I can make as many roaches as humanly possible and start moving out. And here come the 4 Hellions. You'll notice my roaches are producing just as they come down his ramp, so no way he's going to be able to get them into my natural or even into my main to do any damage to my mineral line. If I wanted to, I could just produce these roaches and play defensively, but that's not really my style. When I see Hellions, I like to go for aggression right away. So I do believe speed is done for my Zerglings, so these roaches are just now coming out. Probably going to hotkey them very soon. And just as he gets to my base, there's the roaches just in time to defend. And those Hellions are not going to be able to get in anytime soon. So I think I'm just going to produce 2 more roaches and then likely move out. Yeah. So now it's just the waiting game, waiting for those roaches. Lings are now in production. He is putting up 1 bunker. If you guys out there watching, if you ever play against me on the ladder, make more than 1 bunker. You're going to want at least 6 of those motherfuckers.
Good question.
Yep.
Is it because you went Hellions that you didn't transfer drones, or you just don't own the transfer drones?
Well, actually, that's a good question. What I like to do for my style of play is get that one base saturation, which means just 16 drones mining 2 per patch on one base. I would actually lose mining time if I transferred right away. Right? Like, I'm not worried about mining out my natural. The game's gonna end in 2 minutes anyway. Like, it's not a concern about me. Exactly. Yeah, what I do is I'll be doing this aggression. I'll actually rally both my hatcheries to my expansion and start producing drones while I'm attacking if I don't think I can kill them.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so are the roaches moving out? It looks like I'm being a little lazy, not quite moving out quite yet. One thing you should do when you're doing this roachling style attack is turn off your phone. No. One thing you should do when you're doing this roachling attack is just move out with 3 or 4 roaches at first. Just move across the map because then he sees the roaches moving to the Zalaga. He doesn't assume, you're going for some sort of all-in attack. Even hiding Zerglings in the back of your base so when he comes in to scout, he doesn't see them. Any of these small things to throw your opponent off can really make a difference. And it looked like in this game I was really committing to the all-in. I'm up to 66 food and I think I still have just the initial 16 drones. So he's going to be going in for the pressure here, it looks like. And he doesn't know anything about the build I'm going. He's kind of blindly doing this. He's going to drop some Hellions up into my base. And I'm surprised I'm not moving out yet. I thought I'd be moving out by now, but going to pull back and defend just for a little bit here. Ooh, uh-oh. Yeah, this is pre-patched, so the Hellions do even more damage.
Oh my god.
Oh, excellent control from Tang, losing all of his drones. But, thank you. But that was my cue to move out. So the roaches are moving down the ramp. Ling's going to lead the way just to kind of get a little bit of scouting information. Maybe find out if he has a bunker or anything like that. Queen's probably going to be enough to defend against any kind of pressure while he has those Hellions in my base. And there go the roaches. Still streaming Lings, not producing many drones at all. You would think he would infer that, right? I should be focus firing that medevac and taking it down, but I'm probably just focusing on the roaches now going into his base.
No, please. Run up closer, man.
And here come the roaches, going to move in. He's going to pull the SCVs. One of the biggest things is roaches alone don't perform that well against SCVs, so you need those Zerglings in there to take them down quickly. Taking down those bunkers before he can finish them, moving right up the ramp. Whoa! Able to get in, get the good surround on his units. The roach is going to take out the bunker in the back. Full surround, he's going to lose all of those units at the top of the ramp. And the bunker is going to go down, full surround on it. Never want to let those SCVs get a full surround because then they'll be able to repair. And GG. So that's the roachling attack. Again, I will give you the build order another time. But how much time we got left? Anyone want to do a coaching match? Anyone want to stop? Come on up. Come on up.
The troops. Yeah.
CBC hasn't played aggressive actually.
I'll let you pick the map.
I don't know.
Any map you want.
I'm not sure which ones are going to be worth
Generate from the point.
Alright, yeah, we'll just add an AI. Let's do medium.
I'm scared.
I'll play a quick game.
By the way, you got 20 minutes.
20 minutes. We're good. Small thing, but at the beginning you want to build that drone before you rally to the minerals. Yeah, that overlord can be moving out. We're playing against Protoss, so you can actually send it long across the map. Don't have to worry about stalkers coming out anytime soon. Ooh, look at that APM. Look at him go. He's spamming that SD.
No, I forget about it, and then they told me like.
Keeping very active with that left hand. You could even be doing like 3-3-5-5, 3-3-5-5.
Do I make you like one hog?
Overlord on 9.
Use both hands.
Oh, I hate that. You're like
What?
First Overlord, do you want to send it to your expansion?
Do you think it's better to do an extractor trick or 9 overlord?
I always recommend doing the 9 Overlord. Not a big fan of the extractor trick. I've seen players like Sen do it, so I'm sure there's some sort of reasoning behind it.
It's actually less minerals.
Is it?
Yeah.
Less minerals. Okay, there it is. So don't do the extractor trick, guys. Just stick with the 9 overlord. And we're gonna go for 14-14 because we're gonna go for an expansion on about the 4-minute mark. You can throw down your gas right now on 14.
Really? Okay. Let me just write that down. I'll put that.
Rebuild the drone?
Yeah, rebuild that drone and build a pool. The placement of the first pool doesn't really matter, but hopefully the only pool doesn't really matter. And again, you can drone right up to 15. 15 is your chill time. You'll just maybe make an overlord and just chill out. Woo! Look at this!
Wow.
You sure you haven't played in a while?
Yeah. And then
Do you have an overlord on the way?
No, I don't.
Definitely need an overlord. That guy could be rallied maybe down to that base here. No, that one actually. Yeah. And now you just wait. Don't produce anything. Because when that pool finishes, you want to be able to afford the queen, 4 lings, and speed right away. It's going to keep you safe against any kind of early cheese. When you get up to 88 gas, you can start taking guys out of gas. You want to maximize that mineral consumption. Right now, you can start taking them out 1 at a time. Zerglings, 2. Taking the guys out of gas, good.
No.
And you can start your speed. And go right back into drone production.
So this is drone?
Yep. When those Zerglings are out, you want to hotkey them, start moving them out across the map. You can hotkey them now while they're eggs, yep. Again, take the Zelmaga tower, scout the Protoss front. You could even do something like hide the Zergling at the expansion, somewhere behind the minerals, so that you see exactly when the expansion goes up. Also, that Overlord at the Protoss expansion, you want to make sure it hides. Yeah, like back, actually to the left a little bit would be good. Yeah, somewhere back there. Spit. Oh, start your expansion. You want to get your expansion started by the 4-minute mark. So just as a rule of thumb, as soon as you get that expansion up, very common mistake to keep droning, you want to get that second queen and an Overlord out right away. So even right now, queen Overlord.
It's fun.
Oh,
It's like the Zerg.
yeah, just poking up the ramp, getting some info, then pulling back. You have a queen and an Overlord on the way. Overlord. Good, good. And now right back into droning.
What's the flash of that overload?
24 is when that Overlord should be. Roughly. 23, 24.
So I just make a band very
No. You can refill your gas.
Late game.
And still be droning. You want to drone right up to about 29 or 30, and then you can produce your roach warren. You can grab 1 more drone. Spread the creep a little bit. Good, good, good. And you can produce an Overlord. Still be droning, still be droning. Yeah, as soon as you're building a hatchery, you always want to set the rally points right away. Very important. It saves you a little bit of time later on when there might be more important things to do. Good. And at about 32 or 34, you can just be producing Overlords. You want to get at least 2 on the way because roaches take up so much supply. Still want to be spreading that creep tumor. Very nice. Good. Now would be a good time to be scouting up the ramp again.
Should I spawn
Yeah, keep spinning, keep spinning. Definitely want to be scouting the Protoss expansion vigorously at about the 6-minute mark. You want to see, does he have a pylon at the bottom of the ramp? You know, what's the timing on his expansion? All that. Because it's a computer, we're actually not going to see one.
6 minutes?
Yeah, about the 6-minute mark, you want to be scouting pretty actively.
Roaches?
Yeah, nothing but roaches until you're out of gas. And when you're out of gas, start producing a Overlord. You might even want to grab 2 Overlords. Looking good, looking good. And when those roaches come out, we'll hotkey them. And we'll set the rally points on top of one of the roaches. So you actually right-click right on the roaches.
Oh, what you got?
That's okay, just spam links, spam links, spam links. Use all that larva, there we go. Are they rallied onto the roaches? You want to have them both right on, there we
It was
go.
supposed to tail about as fast as possible.
Seems a little strange, wouldn't be a bad idea to grab even another Overlord right now. You want to stay way ahead of supply. Keep spamming those links, keep spamming those links. Engage with the roaches, 1A move, 1A move. No, 1A move, the lings will take care of everything. Good. Alright.
Do I build only
Only lings now. You just be streaming lings. You want to go for this counter attack. You want to lead with the roaches. So just have the roaches hotkeyed and the lings follow. Still spamming those lings. Even, yep. Spit. Good. There we go.
Spitting is really important. Please do it.
Keep an eye on your roaches. You want to make sure you're engaging. Okay, keep moving up that ramp. Lings will catch up. They're quick. Oh no, you want to lead with the roaches.
Free sentries.
Roaches.
Yeah, very important to lead with the roaches. If you have the lings following, they'll catch up. Now, this is a stage. This is a stage in the game where if you feel like maybe you can kill his expansion but you can't quite kill him, you may switch over into drone production, maybe start your emo chamber. Good job.
Just before this lecture ends, first of all, I'd like to thank Tang. What a great lecture. Really good job. Next week, we're going to have the same thing, except maybe it's going to be like 45 minutes or an hour or something like that. And it's going to be, next time, it's going to be 2v2 with this guy. This guy right now is like ranked top 10 in the world for 2v2, so he's quite good. If you're interested in team games, he's going to be doing that. It's still going to be in the same room. Also this weekend, we have a BlizzCon Barcraft at Molly Blue. So we're gonna watch the BlizzCon. We're gonna watch GSL finals all there. Last time a lot of people showed up. If you guys want to show up to that, that'd be great. We're also starting up UWTL, which is a University of Waterloo team league, where you and at least four other friends can create a StarCraft team, and you guys play against other StarCraft teams from the Waterloo area or friends or whatever. And you guys are gonna play against players with similar play level. You guys won't play against this guy or this guy's team. You guys play against, if you're a plat player, you play against teams who are mostly consistent of plat players. The limit for this team is that you can only have at most 3 masters. And if your team is overpowered, I will ban you. Trust me. So yeah, that's starting up. If you're interested in that, definitely email me. And yeah, again, just thanks for 10. That was a great lecture. I thought so.
Will Combat X show up for the next lecture?
Combat X will be, I think, 2 weeks from now. That's his lecture.
He's actually doing a lecture? He's actually doing a lecture?
I talked to him, yeah. He's going to do a lecture on, well, this guy did an aggressive Zerg.
How
to play aggressive Protoss.
How to win games without winning gateways. Maybe, I haven't confirmed, I don't know. Alright, if you guys just want more news on Waterloo stuff or just interested in different types of events, definitely email me.
I'd like to challenge Steve to a little 1v1 if he's up for it.
Don't even
No, you're a little scared. We can talk a whole bunch of shit like Destiny versus
what's your
X.
rank? What's my other rank? Thank you.
When were you Grandmaster this season?
Okay.
Set it up. We'll tell you what, I'll leave the big screen on. You can just
When was the last time you played Astonishing Vita? When was the last time you played DDE?
You pick the map.
No, I don't have that rig. You win. I'm sorry.
Oh.
So you want more?
It's fine.
I love Goldfriend. The best thing ever.
Good.
What's up?
Anything else?
I think we're good. We're gonna put this up on some kind of website, hosting website. Probably YouTube. You guys can check it out.
Yeah, we'll get this up on YouTube.
Alright, you guys coming, guys? Next week, Kelly's brand is gonna be 2v2.